Most people walk past a fortune in plain gray dirt every single day because the actual signs that diamonds might be nearby have nothing to do with sparkle. They're dull, they're small, they look, at first glance, like something you'd kick out of your boot without a second thought. And that's exactly the problem. The ground doesn't hide diamonds behind locked doors or secret maps. It hides them in plain sight, disguised as gravel nobody bothers to pick up. Here's the thing about diamonds. They never travel alone. They're born under crushing pressure, more than 100 miles down, in a layer of the earth most of us will never see directly. To reach the surface, they need a ride. A violent, narrow volcanic pipe that blasts up from the mantle in a matter of hours, dragging pieces of that deep world with it. So if you're searching for a diamond directly, you're basically hoping to win a lottery blindfolded. But if you learn to recognize the rocks and minerals that only ever show up with that mantle cargo, you stop guessing and start reading the landscape like a trail of clues. That's what separates someone who wastes a season digging in the wrong county from someone who actually knows where to look. There are 5 of these clues, and once you can spot all 5 in a single afternoon of walking, a random creek bed stops looking random. It starts telling you a story about a volcanic pipe, about what got left behind, and about where water or ice carried it afterward. The first clue is the rock that did the actual work of carrying diamonds up from the mantle in the first place, kimberlite. This is a strange, ancient volcanic rock that erupts through narrow, carrot-shaped pipes, rather than the wide lava flows most people picture when they think volcano. Fresh kimberlite tends to look dark, greenish-gray to bluish, and it feels oddly soft for a volcanic rock, almost soapy. Over time, weathering turns it into a yellow, brown, or cream-colored soil that old-time miners nicknamed yellow ground, while in wetter climates, it can break down into a slick, greasy blue-gray clay. It isn't one clean mineral. It's a chaotic mashup of mantle fragments, crystals, and volcanic matrix, all jammed together during an eruption that happened in a matter of hours, geologically speaking. The giveaway inside it is often rounded, olive green grains of olivine, crystals that came straight from the mantle and have no business being in an ordinary lava flow. Some of the most famous diamond mines in the world, Kimberley in South Africa, Jwaneng in Botswana, Ekati in Canada, sit directly on top of pipes like this. A recreational searcher isn't going to stumble onto a brand new commercial pipe, but finding loose kimberlite float nearby is a legitimate, meaningful signal. The easiest way to rule out an imposter is a simple scratch test. Kimberlite scratches and crumbles easily, unlike tough, resistant basalt, which is the most common thing people mistake for it. The second clue is smaller, tougher, and travels much farther from its source, pyrope garnet. These are small, rounded, purplish red to pink grains, often no bigger than a grain of rice, and they're famous in the exploration world because their chemistry is a near-perfect match for the deep mantle conditions that also produce diamonds. You'll usually find them worn smooth, like miniature river stones, because they've been carried by ice, water, or weathering, sometimes for dozens of kilometers from the actual pipe. Not every red garnet counts, though. Almandine garnet, a common byproduct of ordinary metamorphic rock, can look deceptively similar. The real distinction isn't color, it's company. A rounded purple-red garnet sitting alongside black heavy sand and a scatter of bright green grains tells a completely different story than a single red grain sitting alone in mica schist. That bright green grain is clue number 3, chrome diopside. It's a chromium-rich mineral that shows up as small, glassy, emerald green fragments in a heavy mineral concentrate, and it's often the first thing that catches your eye in a pan full of dull gray sand, because sunlight makes it flash like a tiny green LED. It isn't a diamond itself, and it isn't even required for a pipe to be productive. But finding it alongside pyrope garnet is one of the strongest combined signals you can get, because both minerals share the same deep chromium-rich chemistry that diamonds are born into. Watch out for lookalikes, though. Dull green epidote, chlorite, or even old broken glass from a mining camp can fool at first glance. Real chrome diopside has a glassy internal flash that dull-weathered minerals just don't have. The fourth clue is what happens once gravity and water finally take over the job. Ilmenite and heavy black sand. This is a metallic, iron-titanium mineral that concentrates in the same dense fraction as garnet whenever a river or glacier sorts material by weight. In the field, it looks like shiny, gritty black sand collecting along the low edge of a gravel bar or in a crack in the bedrock, exactly the same kind of trap that concentrates gold. On its own, black sand only proves that heavy mineral sorting is happening in that drainage. It takes garnet and diopside riding along with it to turn that into a real diamond signal. And the fifth clue is the one professional exploration. Geologists actually check first before they even look at the other 4. The host rock itself, peridotite, and its olivine-rich cousin, dunite. This is mantle rock, dragged bodily to the surface by the kimberlite eruption, and its presence answers the most basic question of all. Is this even the right kind of geological neighborhood for a pipe to exist? Fresh olivine looks yellow-green and glassy, Weathered olivine turns rusty brown along its cracks, which is exactly why beginners mistake it for ordinary dirty basalt and walk right past it. Diamond-bearing pipes almost always sit inside old, stable continental cores called cratons. Ancient, thick, undisturbed crust that's been sitting quietly for over 1 billion years. Step outside that kind of terrain, and the odds of a genuine pipe drop sharply, no matter how promising the gravel looks. None of these 5 clues is a guarantee, and that's worth saying plainly. They're filters, not proof. What makes this knowledge feel obscure isn't some grand conspiracy. It's just that diamond exploration is a genuinely specialized corner of field geology, taught in mining schools and company training programs, not in the average rock hounding forum. The economics work the same way gold prospecting does. Professional exploration crews map indicator mineral trains fanning out from a hidden pipe, using exactly this 5-clue logic on an industrial scale, while most casual searchers never learn to look past the shiny stuff. If you want to actually use this in the field, the order matters. Start with the basement question. Are you even standing on old craton ground with a documented history of ultramafic rock? Then look for pyropy garnet in your pan, then chrome diopside, then a concentrated black sand layer in the low points of a gravel bar or a bedrock crack. A basic kit is genuinely simple. A gold pan, a set of classifier screens, a shovel, a hand lens, a strong magnet, sample bags, and a notebook to record color, roundness, and location for every heavy grain you find. Sample after a storm or after ice melt if you can. Fresh water often exposes concentrates that have been sitting hidden for years. And always check land access, claim status, and park boundaries first. Knowing where diamonds should be doesn't give you the legal right to dig for them. A few honest limitations are worth keeping in mind. Most kimberlite pipes, even real ones, turn out to be barren or uneconomic. Finding the rock proves the delivery system existed, not that diamonds came along for the ride. Rough diamonds themselves rarely look like jewelry store stones. They're often greasy, rounded, and dull until they're cut and polished, so don't expect a sparkle to give you away. And indicator work is fundamentally statistical. One empty pan tells you almost nothing, while dozens of samples across a terrace start to reveal a real pattern. What all 5 of these clues add up to together is a way of reading ground instead of guessing at it. Mantle rock tells you the basement is right. Kimberlite tells you a pipe once erupted through it. Garnet and diopside tell you that deep chemistry matches. Black sand tells you gravity and water have been sorting and concentrating that material ever since. Read them in that order, and a random creek bed on a Wednesday afternoon stops being a long shot. It becomes a place worth walking slowly, with your eyes down, ready to notice the ordinary-looking grain that everyone else just stepped over. That shift from hoping to actually knowing what to look for is the real find here at Hidden Fix Lab. The rest is just patience, and the ground doing what it's always been doing, waiting to be read correctly.